Did you hit?
I did, yeah.
All right, we are live.
All right. Sometimes it notifies me on this, sometimes it doesn't, but I guess we'll figure it out. And
I got some good comments on the episode. I was just reading them.
oh, it is.
Hmm.
It's cool. Yeah, I haven't really spent too much time looking at that, but that's pretty neat though. Yeah, it's a fun episode to do.
No, it's a really good episode.
I definitely enjoyed it. It's fun to get that done. It's fun doing the obscure people. Admittedly, it just is.
Well, it started
Uh,
as kind of an inside joke between us and John.
yeah, well, I mean, it did. It was, but I think at the end of the day, though, it kind of showed it's neat to study some of these people who kind of I bet you most people haven't heard of.
Yeah,
And I knew Says Noel a little bit from the Fourth New York Cavalry, and
yeah,
but I didn't know that. What's cool about doing this is you get to research these people you probably normally wouldn't have. And Says Noel is somebody who, it's I think even in the top level of Civil War historians probably don't spend a lot of time.
yeah.
Studying someone like him is a stupid thing. It's driving me crazy here. Anyway, but it was fun to do. I definitely enjoyed it, and I think we told the story well. But
Yep.
he's like so many of these people who have these great stories that people don't really get into for whatever
Yeah.
reason, because everybody's obsessed with Gettysburg and Lee and Jackson and Meade,
Yeah.
and I get all that. I totally get that, as they should be studied. But the sweet spot with these things is always that level,
Yep.
that bottom level. Um, but in any case, but that's pretty cool though. I'm glad people liked it. It was definitely fun to do.
Morning Glow Jam, Bill, James,
Glow
Christopher.
Jam, Glow Jam. That's a cool name. Yeah, but it's good. It's running a little bit late today, so it is what it is. But
Hmm.
allegedly, rumor has it this cold is going to break
Yeah,
tomorrow. Could actually go
hopefully.
go outside without walking into wind blowing your face. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty
Well,
cool. So
wasn't too bad when I was out a few minutes ago.
no, and I'm getting used to it. There was one night, the night we went over to Blue and Gray last Wednesday was
Yeah.
pretty freaking brutal. That was
Oh
that was
yeah,
rough.
that was brutal. Not to mention they hadn't shoveled the snow,
Yeah, that's going to be an issue. But
but
well,
some people think they're above it. So,
not exactly. Lights, camera, action.
yep.
But that's a scoop. So yeah, so off we go. This is kind of a I know we scheduled this, but it's kind of weird doing this on a Sunday a little bit. But this is
Hmm.
going to be a great day because we're just going to sit around and do nothing all day, which is going to be fantastic.
Probably watch Terminator.
Terminator, a little Bruins hockey tonight, playing in Tampa at a football stadium
Hmm.
tonight. Mary, watch a little hockey for a while until I get
Yep.
bored with that, which will be 5 minutes afterward.
So you
Okay.
start yelling at the TV.
No, I'm not a big Bruins guy. I mean, I love the Bruins, but I'm not. I'm not. If I don't care if they win or they lose. I'll play. I'm always willing to jump on a bandwagon, but that's the scoop of that.
Yep.
So, what else is going on for you today?
Um, well, we're gonna start thinking of some next episode ideas as well. But this going back to Says Nola, it was a really fascinating one because not only is a guy who's got this fascinating career in the Civil War, but post Civil War, it's like, I mean, his life is shady. I'll put it that way.
No, he definitely. I mean, he definitely had a shady life to him. But he was the guy. And as I listened to it again yesterday morning, I was kind of afraid that we would kind of look at and kind of take shots at him, and that's
Yeah,
not really what the intention was. But you want to tell the whole story. But I mean, yes,
yeah,
he was the guy who was looking for every little angle, trying to make every bit of money he could. He was so focused on ego
yeah,
and so focused on reputation. And I think a lot of that came from I'm no psychologist, but I am willing to look at it, as the old phrase says, right? I think it's because he came from that B-level type of family in
yeah,
Piedmont, Italy, and I think he was always trying to prove himself that he was up with the big
yeah,
boys, the elites, and he did everything possible. But he kind of wanted the glory without
yeah,
fighting for it, if you know what I mean. I mean, he fought for it, but at the same time, he took more than he gave,
yeah,
and his attitude always gave him in trouble. I don't know. I mean, he's a fun study because he's somebody who I think people can associate with. You're at work. someone's trying to steal your job, someone is in nepotism, you're losing positions for that reason. You get angry, you get held against you, you feel
Yeah.
persecuted. Says Nola is an easy guy to relate to for everybody. He just
Yeah.
is. I mean, most of these colonels and generals, we can't because that's not who we are.
Yeah.
But everybody's had a job and they feel like they're not getting appreciated enough.
Yeah.
I know I do.
I
I don't mean
appreciate you.
I don't mean this. I mean my real world, But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's cool though. It's fun. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's too because he was the second born and the way titles worked. He was born to, I think it was a lord. No, not a lord,
He was a count.
a count or something like that. Anyway, his brother, his older brother got the title, not him.
Yeah, and if you're the second son of a B-level family, that's like
Yeah.
having dining privileges at Wendy's. I mean, no one cares.
Yeah.
But if you're the first son of an elite family, now the Pope's going to make you a
Yeah.
cardinal. I don't mean a St. Louis cardinal there. I mean a cardinal cardinal.
Yeah.
So but yeah, he's cool though. It's fun. I mean, our friend John is the one who kind of hinted we do this, so
Yeah.
he gets the assist on this one. Um, because most people look at Cisnola, and if you even know who he is, you know him from Aldi, and
Yeah.
that's about it. I mean, maybe you know him from Kelly's Ford, maybe you know him a little bit from the Valley with Sheridan afterwards, but probably
Yeah.
not. Um, some of the elites, Mary, on this podcast will know him from the Metropolitan Museum of Art,
Yeah. The Met.
right? The mess, yeah, exactly. But anyway, but that's cool though. I liked him. He's a fun guy.
So someone said I knew says Nola for only his work on Cyprus, thanks to the cannoli fun episode.
I mean, to be honest, I don't study it too much about the world of antiquities, Mary. I'll be
I mean,
honest.
I did
Okay.
because that's my degree was in
Mhm.
so way back when early 2000s I did my undergraduate degree in classical studies and anthropology specializing in archaeology. So we talked a lot about early archaeology and like Schleiman was the one that came up a lot. I don't think we talked about D. Cesnola though. Um, my own personal opinion is that stuff at the Met needs to be repatriated back to Cyprus because of like there's no provenance behind how he got it.
Well, there's that story where he was taking statues, pieces, putting them together again like Frankenstein, and
Yeah.
then selling them. I mean, but again, you have to look back at the period though, because at that period they
Yeah.
weren't focused on historical integrity; they look at just beauty,
Yeah.
right? So, but he did it, and he pulled every angle for it. So hey, good for him.
Well, when the British Museum doesn't want it, that's bad.
Um, well, they probably just I'm surprised they didn't.
I
I
know,
think
and I know he's on here and he's from England, but I mean, I have issues with the British Museum and the shit they have there.
yeah. Well, the British, yeah, that's the whole thing. But the French Museum and the Russians wanted it because again, this is the period now where architecture and I keep saying architecture, archaeology was a big was a big. It was new.
Yeah.
You had Schliemann kind of doing his thing with Troy and Mycenae,
Yeah.
and then you had these other guys all jumping on board with it to make themselves famous,
Yeah.
and he certainly did. And look at me talk about Mycenae and Troy like an educated elite artisan, Mary.
Do you know who the Minoans are?
Isn't that a Girl Scout cookie?
No. The Minoans were basically Atlantis. That's them.
Oh,
They were I think Schliemann no, he didn't do any work on Knossos. That's the palace he lived in. Anyway, there's some good comments on here. Larry said he loved this one. I can't get over how well you guys bring these obscure people in history and somehow make them really important. And Gentili's on here. He said, great episode. The details of him in Libby prison were really interesting and new to me. Thanks for doing it. He led a wild life. Mr. Higgins.
Well, I mean, I would say he lived an obscure life. I mean, I guess he did as far as like we were saying before compared to the other names we've talked about. But I think the average person, we go to the Isabella Garden Museum in Boston. We mentioned Cesnola, and they're gonna tell us all about Cyprus and that, like he's a top level type of guy in that world. But I mean, the Civil War, he definitely had two sides. He was like Indiana Jones. He was the college professor, and he was the archaeologist, and
Yeah.
so it was pretty cool. Um, but it was fun though. Hey, if anything, I got to try to pronounce some of these friggin' words, and that's the whole thing about it too. Is was people will hit us on social media for mispronouncing words,
Yeah.
especially you. Me too.
Yeah.
So trying to run through these and just trying to memorize some of these words and some of these names, and it did bring back some memories of of Italians of days of yore for me. So with
Yeah.
some of these things, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Well, John said hearing the Italian pronunciations from you two alone was worth the price of admission.
Well, hopefully we got some of them right. Hopefully, who knows? But I had fun with it.
No, it was a good episode.
you know
I
and
enjoyed it.
and he mentions the Libby prison thing, and it's cool because the thing about Cisnola was most of the stuff it's hard to find research on guys like Cisnola because there's not a lot out there. When you research him, you're going to get a lot of information about the art stuff. You're going to get the
Yeah.
cipher stuff, and you're going to get stealing stuff and the fake tombs. But the Civil War stuff is very obscure. But he wrote 14 letters to his wife Mary while he was at Libby prison that you can find if you go into the Library of Congress, and you can
Yeah.
find them there. And that's the sweet spot about this history thing is reading these personal things. I found the Libby part of his life to be the most fascinating because for
Yeah.
one, it's hilarious, and it also brings him back to a right because you can sit and picture him sitting there, got with guys like Charles Tilden's probably there, and all these
Yeah.
people are there, and they're having to bribe people to get what they want. There's that story about how he got the women's clothes for that Mr.
Yeah.
Higgins guy's wife. And the story with the boots is hilarious too. I mean, and it just go and you can picture that where he walks in some rebel guards like, all right, give me your boots. And he looks at him and says, well, I usually have a servant take off my boots. So if you want them, you can take them off. And the next letter basically says the guard took everything off except of his boots, which you could picture that happen today.
Yeah.
Just that's the funny
That's
part
why I
about it.
said naked and afraid.
And he writes it so casually, like, the way he talks about it. I mean, if I got stripped naked and walked into prison, I don't think I'd be writing a letter about it. And that's what's cool about those letters because he never intended them to get published. Although he did sell them later for
Yeah.
money, he did. But he was writing here's my plight. And the money thing was hilarious. We talked a lot about Hiram Hitchcock, right? Or
Yeah.
Hancock, the guy
Yeah.
from Dartmouth College. Do you know everything Hancock did for him as far as getting him an honorary degree at Dartmouth, all that stuff? Do you know that I didn't mention this in the episode. Hancock wanted an autographed picture of Cisnola for his office.
Yeah.
Cisnola gave it to him and charged him money for it? After
Really?
all of that, I forgot to mention in the episode, but I just thought that this guy's fascinating. The guy's got balls. I'll give him that.
Well, what did John say about him? He's like so Italian.
Well, I mean that's the whole thing too. Is you don't want to come across as being kind of derogatory towards
Yeah.
Italians, and it's or any ethnicity. But I mean, there are certain things about him that I'm glad John picked up on because he's an Italian himself.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he can relate to some of these things. I'm not Italian at all, but I know a lot of people who are. But he just seems to me the type of guy who would like anybody else was always pushing for every little benefit,
Yeah.
every little thing, and it's like no shame in it. It is what it is.
James mentions that there's a newspaper clipping of guy who hired some of Cesnola's workmen after his time. It backs up all the horrors you mentioned in the episode.
I mean that some of the stuff he did when he allegedly found that tomb full of gold and silver, and he used that to kind of negotiate its price to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Hey, I've got all this gold in these tombs. If you want this, you're gonna have to pay for this. Okay, sounds good. And then he found out he bought it at local bazaars and off different people. He just lied. The tombs never even existed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those things where you tell the lie and you're living in that great buffer zone until you get caught.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing with Cesnola was he was so, I don't want to say afraid, but he was so cognizant of the fact that someone's going to catch him. That he was always looking over his shoulder.
Yeah.
And he was always trying to stay ahead of it by criticizing the people before they criticized him, specifically Schleinman.
Yeah. Yeah, Gentili says people like Cisnola are fun to learn about. Let's face it, a lot of these guys led boring lives. They farmed, fought in war, and then farmed again or went into law or insurance or whatever. That's true.
I mean, since we mentioned Tilden a bit ago, he's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
He gets caught. He goes to Libby. He's actually incarcerated in Libby with Cesnola. He escapes the Rose Tunnel. He actually escapes, but he goes to fight, gets caught again at Petersburg. He escapes again, and then he goes home and lives his life in obscurity. And it's a shame because I don't think a lot of these guys realized how big what they were doing was in real time. I think they literally saw it as, hey, we're just doing our jobs and I'm going to go home and live my life. Because Tilden, and I've been trying to research him in real detail for a while, and I'm getting
Yeah.
there. But there's just not a lot because he never wrote anything. And you have guys like Thomas who burned all of his stuff, and
Yeah.
that's fine too. But there's so much stuff that's still out there. And even doing the Says Noel thing, I've never seen those letters before, ever.
No.
And I would think that somebody along the way would find those and write them because they're funny, if anything, and
Yeah.
it humanizes these people.
Yeah.
But that's what's cool about doing this. It gives you a reason to study these people and
Mhm.
find some new things.
Lynn just popped on here. She's in North Carolina and she just finished digging out 10 inches of snow.
Oh, what's that like? That's horrible.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's definitely snowy season. Although I think maybe hopefully that this might be the end of the winter for
Yeah,
us. Hopefully, well, you never know. We dodged that one that clipped Nantucket last night.
I know.
But all the snow here is like cement and it's frozen over. It's ridiculous. Um, but again, that's the problem with not living in the north anymore. People don't know how to take care of the roads here, so
Yeah.
it's a friggin' mess down here. But that's okay.
Mhm.
That's okay. That's okay. But but no, but it's cool to do that with some of these people, and I think I think Says Noel, like we said, like John was saying a few minutes ago, like you're saying, he's a guy who I think people can enjoy, and I
Yep.
can certainly relate to. I think everybody can.
No, I completely agree. Like, and I still think Mr. Higgins was a cat.
Well, I don't think Mr. Higgins as a wife was a cat, you know. Um, but this, and now it's funny because now I'm obsessed with finding out who this Mr. Higgins is, and
Yeah.
I spent more time than any human should trying to find this guy, and I couldn't. He was just known as Mr. Higgins. The only
Yeah.
letters I could find anywhere at Libby who references him, but he's just some guy who was in charge of the mail.
Yeah.
He would get it. He would go through the mail to make sure no one was sending in God knows what, and he would take what he wanted. And you had to bribe this guy to get your
Yeah.
stuff. He wanted blankets. He wanted food. He wanted flute music. He wanted things like that. So he's like, "I'll give you some women's clothes for your wife. You just give me my blanket."
Yeah.
And, all right, sounds good. And that's how he pulled it off. So good for him to figure that out. You know.
Roger's on here. He says it's -12 in Zanesville. Bill's on here from Arizona. He says it's 50 degrees there.
I don't know even what it is here today, but it's freaking cold. It's okay to get used to it though.
Yep.
It's cold in Tampa. It's
Yeah.
34 degrees in Tampa right now.
Mhm.
So this you know what the story is and all this stuff. Um, but yeah, I like doing these episodes. They're fun like that. I like
Yeah.
doing the battles. I like doing all that stuff too. And that's all well and good. But there's something cool specifically about researches about who you can relate to. And if he was
Yeah.
a Southerner, I feel the same way. I don't care about the North and South thing. I just think that it's fun to find good stories. You know.
Yeah, there's definitely good stories with this, both, during the Civil War and post-Civil War as well.
No,
Bill said, wasn't Higgins Robin Masters?
no. No, it's he's one of these faceless people. There's so many good people. That somebody somewhere,
Mhm.
if we could figure out, if we can get our episode on Mr. Higgins, that'd be now we're talking.
That'd be, if we could find out who he was.
I mean, that'd be better than waving in front of an air conditioner for 3 weeks, wouldn't it?
I was looking at the horses.
The movie's finally ended, Mary. It's finally
Boxlander's gone home.
Boxlander has been boxed up and he's going back to Landerville. And he's out of here, unfortunately. And we never got to be extras. We were supposed to. We never did it, which is unfortunate.
It's okay.
But it's okay too. It's okay too. Now that they're out of here, hopefully, the downtown area, which is a mess, can be cleaned up a little bit. So hopefully that works out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be in the next one. I'll be the star. Me and Boxlander.
You and Boxlander?
Yeah. I guess he was a nice guy. I guess everybody says he was enjoyable.
Yeah.
So can't argue with him. Yeah.
I don't know about the other actors because I've never heard of them before.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I hope it's halfway decent. I mean, it isn't exactly De Niro, Pacino, Marlon Brando here.
No.
As we stay in the Italian theme, but you know what? If it brings a little bit of attention to the town again, at least this one sounds more. It's like a love story, but it's also about the history in the town of the battle. Unlike the last one, that Christmas thing. So this one will be pretty good. Hopefully, it works. So I'm sure we'll see it. I don't think I'll see the Christmas one, but I think we'll see the. I think we'll see the new one.
Yeah, they'll probably play it at the Majestic.
Yeah, we'll go to Los Angeles for the premiere and we can walk on the red carpet.
It's a Civil War Bill lights, camera, mug it up for a discount bin at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, the funny part about it is we did know a lot of people who were extras in this.
Yeah.
And so it'll be fun to kind of do the who's who. Our friend Johnny B will be in it, who's going to
Yep.
be in it. I don't know if he's got his little ice cream wagon or not, but that'd be kind of fun.
Our friend Beth was in it
That's right.
as
She
well.
she was in it, so a lot of people were in it. So that's pretty cool. But hopefully it comes out. I mean, we'll see. I don't know if they still have a production or not. I mean, how they're going to get this thing out or not, I have no
Yeah.
idea, but whatever.
Gentili said Gettysburg Ripper movie starts filming May 1st.
We need to get going on that Mosby movie.
Yeah.
You know,
Starring Darren.
I'm going to play Mosby.
You're going to play
me.
Mosby. Yep.
I don't know how to ride a horse, but once I do, I'll watch out.
Aren't you a little bit short for Mosby?
The hell are you trying to? What is that supposed to mean?
Oh no, wait, he was short.
Yeah, he was little than me. He was like Gentili size. He was fun size. You know,
Fun sized. Did you just call Gentili fun sized?
he's not short. He's fun size. Yeah, but no, that's pretty cool. I guess at least I'll give credit to them for doing a Civil War movie. I mean, I know it's not a Hollywood thing, but I think it'll be well received here.
Yeah.
I think hopefully it will. I mean, who knows?
I mean, when the cats rode west.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. So we're gonna have a bunch of stuff coming up here. It'll be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk about this at the end, but we're gonna do the episode with Dave Taylor again. We're gonna do a new you and I and speaking to John and some other people, we did a booth escape tour a month or two ago.
Yeah.
It was October, a couple months ago now. And so he is going to be running one out of Maryland and for I guess February, March, April, right?
Yep.
And go on the link.
Or no, March and April.
March and April. I thought they were doing okay. It doesn't matter, but he is a top shelf historian on the Lincoln assassination. He's up there with the Michael Kaufmans of the world. He is an absolute stud, and it's just he lives and dies this stuff. No pun intended, right? And so he is going to be running a tour, and we posted a link to it on our social medias. We're going to go to the one in April. But if anybody wants to go and join us or do it on their own, and the main difference, unlike the one that we did, was he's going to get us into some of the buildings that we can't get into, like Huckleberry, right? And that'll be pretty cool. You can't even get to Huckleberry unless you know someone, and he's the guy you know. So that'd be pretty cool. I think we'll look forward to doing that, and I hope it's well received. And it sounds like it is. He's a good dude, and he's very genuine. And it's tough to study Booth in the assassination nowadays because people, I mean, we know people who won't even say his name.
Yeah.
Okay. And I get it. And I totally understand the ramifications of what he did and how the country is today and all that stuff.
But you have to study him.
But
he's not Voldemort, you know, where you can't say his name.
Or Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Don't say that too much times. Don't need him running around here. You know, but I think what's going to happen is he is going to get it in places and he'll tell the story because he's been studying this, you know, forever, you know, since Hiram stirred cement, as some people in my world like to say, and so he'll be a guy where he'll give you real good details, and he'll take you to Liz Quisenberry's house, he'll take you to Thomas Hardin's place, talk about Joe Baden, Jet, all these obscure people in the assassination, except he'll be able to get you in some of the homes that we couldn't do. We had stood outside and waved and you know, and try to take pictures in front of them. But I think if you can't make it, it'll try to do it on your own, because what's good about the Lincoln Assassination Booth Tour is you can go online and you can pretty much map out all the places if you know where you're going and just put them into Waze and follow them. It's helpful to have somebody who knows what they're doing though. But if you don't, it's not something that's, you know, it's not a freaking Goodwill Hunting here, Mary. They're a genius to do it. But I think it'll take you all day. You'll get done at the Garrett Farm, which is pissing distance from Fredericksburg.
Yep.
So you can have a night on Caroline Street like we did, and just enjoy it. But you're seeing real history, because I'll tell you, places like the Mud House, places like the Pine Thicket, and places like this, for the most part, you're looking at the same exact vistas and seeing the same exact things that all these people did, that Sam Mudd did, obviously Booth did. Davy Harold did. So it's a part of history that, again, it's a dark part of history, but when you study it and you see how everything played itself out in your with your own eyes and see the paths, see the hills, and see that the
Yeah.
woods and the swamps, it's amazing to think of just how not long ago it was. And
Yeah.
for me, it's always cool to be able to walk in the footsteps of people in history, whether you like them or not. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to Atlanta, I've been all these places in history where I agree and I don't agree with things, but I still go because it's
Yep.
fun to be there, you know?
Yep. Exactly. So Gentili said Mosby was my height. Um, yes, Roger, that is the Christmas Gettysburg movie you've been seeing Dobbin House constantly posting about. John said that that tour, the one, so the assassination one, was one of the best tours I've ever done. Thanks to you. Highly recommend someone join, like, go on Dave's tours. And then you saying, what was it? Since Hiram stirred cement.
Yeah.
So someone I know back in Canada has a saying, and it's Christ, since Christ was a cowboy.
I've never heard that one before.
That was, yeah, since Christ was a cowboy.
That makes sense though, because I think he was on the last Cowboys Super Bowl team. So maybe he was a cowboy. That would explain it. Anyway,
Since Christ was a cowboy.
it's probably a Hail Mary joke there somewhere, but it's okay.
Yep. There was also since Adam and Eve had the measles.
What the heck? You still drunk?
Oh,
But I'm glad John mentioned that because I love doing those tours, and we I think we had about 5 or 6 of us who we kind of did that,
yeah.
and we started right at Ford's Theater, and we went down a Baptist Alley, we went over to across the bridge over the Navy Bridge. We did the whole tour from soup to nuts from Ford's Theater all the way to the Garrett Farm, and I was glad we could get into the Garrett Farm area because you're not really supposed to, but if you can't go a little further, you can't really further go beyond where we did. You didn't go; you stayed in the car. But
Yep.
if that's a situation where you really need someone who knows where they're going,
Yep.
you won't find it because it's not marked anywhere. It used to be marked. There used to be a sign back there, but not anymore. Um, but if you can go and see it, because there's something I don't know. I've been studying the Booth thing. I got into Civil War history by the assassination.
Same.
That's what I did.
Same.
So being able to stand on the same exact ground where Booth died, where everything went down, it's a rush. It is.
Yep.
It just is. And so if you get a chance to go on Dave's tour, definitely do it. If not, maybe we'll do another one. Maybe we'll do another one. I'm always up for it.
Yep. No, well, definitely do the ones with Dave. And thankfully, he's sold enough tickets now that he will be definitely guaranteed to be running all three.
All I can picture is the Kramer Peterman tour on the
Yeah.
bus.
Oh,
You know,
God.
passing with the
Jeez.
bagels.
Yeah.
That's all I can imagine. Um, but no, but I think that'll be fun. Maybe we can do that. And there's some other fun stuff. Once this weather finally gets friggin' warm
Yep.
again, we can do some more adventures we've been talking about.
Here's a question for you or something to speculate about. If Grant had been at Ford's Theater, Booth either gets killed, arrested, or doesn't even try. There would have been soldiers guarding Grant.
Yeah, possibly. But again, it's I don't know about that because there wasn't people guarding the president. And the president's still the president. I mean, you had a guy, John Parker, who was sitting outside
Yep.
the door. He ends up going to the Star Saloon to get banged up. And he kind of leaves him. He kind of gets left there. I don't know about that. I think he would have tried, but I think he might have tried to get both of them. I don't know. It's hard to say who he would if he had if because the area that he was in was not that big, and that's a good question actually.
Yep.
If he would have, I still think he would have tried
Yep.
it. I'm not sure would have made that much of a difference. The guy he really wanted was Lincoln.
Yep.
But maybe he would have. Maybe he would have demanded he had people with him, and who
Yep.
knows what happened. But that's what's cool about history is you can
Yep.
speculate with that, because it's not right or wrong. He could be very well right, and we'll never
Yep.
know. And it's all because of how much Julia Dent didn't get along with Mary Lincoln.
Yep.
Why Booth wasn't there? They
Yep.
hated each other,
Yep.
and she didn't want to spend time in the theater with Mary Lincoln. And if so, it goes to show if she was a little bit more personable,
Yep.
it might have been the assassination never happened.
Yep.
That's why. Can't be a bitch, Mary.
Yep. Exactly. Hang on a sec. I have to get a Kleenex.
All right. Go get yourself a Kleenex. But that's a good question though. I love doing it, and people don't like to do the whole what if thing. What if what if he did? And it's tough to say how they would have played itself out. But I think it's pretty cool to think about that. And there's a lot of the thing about it though is I don't know what she's going to get a tissue, but there's a lot of stuff about this that's debated about that. This that story where Julia in Grant to ride in a carriage and they see somebody with Booth, and that's been debunked overall. That's probably she saw somebody, but it's unlikely it was Booth because a lot of people don't think he did. There's a lot of stuff about that. So when that was all going down, anybody who was seen with a mustache on a horse was Booth, and there's a lot of stories like that. So it could have been, but I've read a lot of stuff about that too, and a lot of people say it never happened or that wasn't what she thought. There was a story where she was sitting in a restaurant and saw Booth sitting there glaring at her, and they don't know if that was him or not because the timing doesn't always add up with these things. So it's tough to say. It really is tough to say. It always amazed me though why he would have done that with just a one-shot gun, and I think it was probably more of a theatrical type of thing because he was actually if somebody look at these comments. Somebody mentioned Boston a bit ago. Not long for the assassination, Booth was at the Parker House, which is still there. You can stay there. It's a great hotel to stay at. And he was basically there meeting with some Confederate Secret Service agents. And he also went to a shooting range to try out the gun. And for whatever reason, he insisted on just using a single shot instead of a revolver. And he wanted the knife because that was his deal. He wanted to specifically do he wanted to be very Shakespearean the way he did it. And it's tough to say because people don't even actually debate whether he even broke his leg jumping off the balcony, which I think he certainly did. I think he definitely did. But he mentioned somewhere along the way when he was talking to John Lloyd over at the Surratt house that his horse fell on him. Because of course he's going to lie about how he broke his leg. He's not going to say, "Well, I've heard, I jumped off the balcony." So there's that too. So that's what's cool about studying this is you're getting into a lot of he said she said stories
Yeah.
that have turned into the national fabric of this, and it doesn't mean it's wrong, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that people kind of get at, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty neat to talk about it.
Gentilly said you did the Kramer tour. It was my Mosby tour.
That was a good time.
Yeah,
Remember
that was,
John when we walked into that biker bar place with John?
oh God.
It's freaking funny.
No, but the Mosby tour, I seriously would like to make that a tradition on my birthday weekend.
The Mosby tour? Yeah,
Yeah,
we could do that.
because that was fun. Um, so Ricky said Julia Grant said she saw someone resembling Booth looking to her carriage as she left DC because he wanted to see if Grant was staying.
Yeah,
Uh,
we were just talking about that. And
yeah,
that story's debated, and that story's been a lot of people don't think doesn't really happen. It wasn't believed. You and I we were talking with Taylor about that, and he
yeah,
agrees that it probably wasn't him. But who knows? I mean, that's the whole thing too. It's always cool to study this stuff because you never know what's going to happen.
yeah.
You know.
And then let's see. James said, what if Booth Spurs hadn't caught in the bunting?
And that's the thing too, and that's the good one because that day he spent at the Mud House in Bryantown, that's what cost him. Because if he didn't get stuck, he could have stayed ahead, and who knows if he
Yeah.
would have survived, maybe he would still be alive today, Mary. Who knows, right?
God.
But it's certainly, I mean, it's certainly possible. But that's what's great about history is that you can plan these things to the very detail, and something as obscure as your spur tripping on a bunting
Yeah.
can undo the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we were saying while you were getting your tissue, whatever, that he told John Lloyd that he fell off his horse and his horse fell on him, and that's where that story comes from.
Yeah. Well, we were with someone on the Booth tour that believes the horse story.
Yeah, I mean that's because that's what a lot of the testimony about this. That's where it all came from.
But like that sounds so much better than like, well, my foot caught on the bunting and I broke my leg when I fell, and I'm known for being able to leap as an actor.
No, but it was definitely it was confirmed he did trip and fall and lands awkwardly. So it's probably what it was.
Yeah.
And people said, but he didn't have a limp when he ran out because the adrenaline's not. It's still gonna.
Yeah. The adrenaline keeps the pain away.
For a little while. It probably would have blown up and swelled while he was riding.
Yeah.
But if you're a conspiracy person, this is your thing because you can read Finest Bates book. You can read
Yeah.
Eisenschimmel's book, and all the TB Road story from the bridge that the New Yorker on the bridge and the masked guy on the bridge let him go to get across, and it was a big conspiracy set up by the Catholic Church and by Edward Stanton. I mean, and of course the best one is that he was still
Yeah.
alive. They survived and lived to go to Enid, Oklahoma, and committed suicide of all things. And his body was preserved, and you can Google his body today. And they broughed him on tour. Come see John Wilkes Booth's body.
Yeah.
It's some chubby guy in a mustache, dead.
So weird. I found that picture in a book that I work at a library, and I was at libraries we have to do what's called collection maintenance and weeding, and we were going through some of our nonfiction, and I found an older book that we ended up removing from the collection because it was like very, very dated. But it had a picture of John Wilkes Booth, and it was that guy,
Yeah.
the fake guy.
I mean, but there are so many books. We've got so many books on that whole thing. I will say the Finest Bates book is entertaining to read. It is. I mean,
Yeah.
you read it and you sit there and you have to catch yourself going, yeah, that actually makes sense. And you go, wait a second, there's no way in hell that he survived Garrett Farm. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. But it's kind of like one of those. There's that book, like What If the Confederacy Won the War, and you read it, and it kind of things sort of make sense.
Yeah.
It's like that. He's the grandfather of the actress Kathy Lee Bates, which is kind of funny. But I would suggest reading it just for entertainment. It's not, in my opinion, it's not correct. But I will say, it's a page turner.
Yeah.
The Eisenschimmel book, you just shake your head the whole time because it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. You wonder how he came up with it or whatever. And then, AQ's in Maine.
She's in Maine.
Yep.
Oh.
That's cool. Bryant said history's greatest mysteries decisively debunked the Booth being alive BS with DNA testing. Yes, I remember that episode. That was a good episode. I think that was the one where they had the so-called family members and they were all disappointed when they weren't related to him.
No, and that story all comes from the fact that the Booth family wanted him dug up and have him tested again. The bone and the Booth family or the cemetery refused to do it and led to all the speculation. The truth of the matter is, I mean, you have the bodies of two children buried on top of him.
Yeah.
And that'd be a real pain to get around that. So, and they just refused to do it. But I think that would be something if they dug him up and they did the DNA and it wasn't Booth. Could
you imagine?
That'd be one of those earth-shattering things. But I don't think that I don't buy into the fact that that's not why they're doing it. I think it's pretty safe to assume because when you look at the logic of it all, it's kind of hard to imagine that they could have pulled that off the way they did. Because it's not like Richard Garrett and the Garrett family were very much on board, but when they realized who he was, they wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And they realized they made him sleep in the tobacco barn for a reason. And they kicked him out of the house. They're not going to sit here and protect him at that point. And at that point, it was a CYA. I mean, you've got Stanton and Doherty and all the other 16th New York Cavalry, everyone doing everything they can to catch him. There's knowing you're going to be implicated. It's amazing to me that people like Thomas Jones, guys like Willie Jett, guys like Joseph Baden, why they were not arrested. They were arrested, but they were all let go. Especially Jones and Harbin were literally aiding and abetting.
Yeah.
And they admitted, Jones admitted to it later in life that he did. And at that point, nobody wanted to deal with it anymore. But it's funny how certain people they picked and certain people they didn't. And it's I mean, they got the primary guys they wanted. They didn't get John Surratt.
No.
But there were so many people they could have got along the way.
Yeah.
And people's status, guys like Samuel Mudd saved their lives. Other people weren't so lucky.
No.
Obviously, but it's a fascinating history. I think everyone loves a fascinating historical story, and he's and people gravitate towards that because it's such a important part of American history.
Yeah.
And even though there's really not a lot of gray area with a lot of these things, people seek out the gray area and try to exploit it out and try to make it more of what it is. But if you get a chance to go on the tour, do it. Surratt Society used to do it back when Dave lived here, but he moved out to Texas, so he's coming out to do it again. But it's a fascinating study. It'll take you all day. I mean, it takes all day to
Yeah,
do it.
it's like a 12-hour tour.
We started. We met what about 9:30, 10 o'clock over at the Ford's Theater, and
Yeah.
when we got done, we were leaving the Garrett Farm. Right, it was just about dark when we left, and we had to hurry some people along because you know me, Mary. I don't like to be late.
Yeah.
Chop chop. Let's go. You
There,
know.
I just put the link for the Lincoln Assassination Tours where you can buy your tickets in the chat. Um, there's Bryant says the bigger conspiracy is what happened to the autopsy photograph taken at Booth.
Yeah, I mean that's a famous one too, and that's where a lot of the controversy stuff starts. You had a doctor who basically did surgery on his throat, verify the scar.
Yeah.
He had the tattoo, and they took the picture, and it vanished. And
Yeah.
and the thing about that is, somebody somewhere, it's going to show up somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just going to turn up somewhere randomly. It's in someone's basement somewhere, or
Yeah.
someone's attic, or it's lost at Library of Congress, or it's in some drawer. I mean,
Yeah.
people found Robert E. Lee's, his letter, his pardon, years later. It was
Yeah.
under the
Wasn't it Gerald Ford
Gerald
found
Ford's
it?
administration. So the stuff's still out there. So who knows? Maybe somebody will find. Maybe I'll find it. I can make millions.
Could you imagine?
I can be like says Nola, then I can become an archaeologist.
Oh, I can just see you doing archaeology. Yeah.
I just be sitting there in the classroom teaching.
Yeah. You and Gentili should start your own archaeology company.
After we do our Buster's Armpit Bar in town,
Yeah. Yeah.
and of course the Buster tour,
Yeah.
that'll be the third thing. So but
Um,
it's
was I gonna say the other thing too that I think would be cool to find is that wax cylinder of Sherman talking about the March to the Sea.
yeah. I mean that's the thing, and that's why it's so great. There are so many people in this field who are still looking for this stuff because, like we said before, we've found those letters for Cesnola, and people they exist, but
Yeah.
no one's really talked about it that I know of. That stuff's out there, and the wax cylinder of Sherman speaking is out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And if anybody who hasn't heard the cylinder of Edwin Booth talking, which exists, you can Google that on YouTube and find it. It is creepy, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. This stuff is still there. That's what I like about it. Everyone likes history because there's always something new coming.
Yeah.
Robert Gould Shaw's sword was discovered in an attic in Massachusetts about
Yeah.
10 years ago. And that's stuff's out there.
Yeah.
I never find it naturally ever.
Bryant says, how do you not take your security seriously when a dude puts a bullet through your hat while you're riding alone one night, referring to what happened to Abraham Lincoln, that he really wasn't taking his security too seriously?
No, he wasn't. He was, I think it was like a faith thing. He had that quote where he said, if when you die once. If you fear death, you die 1,000 times, right?
Mhm.
I think he was kind of like, you know what? Someone wants to shoot me, come shoot me.
Yeah.
And he didn't. I mean, no president had been shot by that point, but there had never been a civil war by that point before.
No.
He did get shot at the soldier farm, the
Yeah.
soldier home. Someone took a shot at him.
Yeah.
So he should have been. I think he was at peace with whatever happened.
Yeah.
Just one of those people, like, God's will, like the movie says with Gettysburg, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I would have been more careful.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Well, I think Stanton was trying to tell him to be more careful too. I think everybody was. Andrea says no Buster photos at the Chamberlain Museum.
Oh, she's at Chamberlain Museum?
Yeah, she went there.
Oh, I love the Chamberlain Museum. That place is so cool.
Yeah.
Now if you ever get up to Brunswick, Maine, and you go up by where Bowdoin College is, and you go see his house and his museum, it's one of the cooler places to visit.
Yeah.
It just is. You just go up there, and they tell you the whole story of him. And Chamberlain is obviously a very famous guy. The book Killer Angels, the movie Gettysburg, really puts 6 steroids in him for his popularity.
Yeah.
But if you get a chance to walk the campus at Bowdoin, they have quotes of his all over the place throughout the campus.
Yeah.
And remember we went in the library that time?
Yeah.
And they have all the stuff in there. We tried to get the Howard letters, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're only available digitally.
But you can get in there and you can see so much stuff. And I remember it's a real shame that Joshua's Tavern's closed, because that was one of my favorite history bars to go to. And admittedly, it wasn't all Civil War, but it was a lot of Civil War.
Yeah.
But you could sit there at the bar and you could talk to locals about Chamberlain and about the family and about Fanny Chamberlain and all the generational stories have been passed down and passed down.
Yeah.
It's just that's what I love about history is be able to go to places like that and talk to locals, whether it's true or not, who the hell knows? But it's for
Yeah.
them, it's true. It's just a little story, you know.
Yeah. Kevin says howdy ho. Gentilly said to-do list, direct Gettysburg Ripper movie, open Buster's Tavern, start archaeology and grave robbing service.
Wow, there's a grave robber in Philadelphia that's been making the news here recently.
Yep.
Some guy was like digging up these people and selling bones on. Yeah,
Didn't he
that's
dig up the Civil War guy? The guy from Gettysburg?
no,
Remember you were
no.
looking into that?
Yeah, it was McCandless. William McCandless is buried in Philadelphia, and there was a guy who was literally digging people. And this is like recently. You can Google the stories. I think it was a national story, but he
Yep.
was basically he has a Instagram page where he's basically selling skulls and bones and of
Yep.
people he dug up in that cemetery. And a family member of McCandless was afraid that they dug up his hit, but apparently he
Yep.
wasn't. He was untouched. They didn't go near him. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't get the fascination of that, but hey, I guess this
No.
teach their own.
Brian said, I don't think much changes if Lincoln serves out his second term until 1869, but perhaps civil rights happens a decade earlier than the 1960s. That could be.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. What Booth really did to deny the country was he denied the country's broken femur bone to heal correctly.
Yep.
And he would have fought. He would have run into issues with the military districts. He would have run into issues with the South and all the black codes. He would have dealt with all that. But I think he would have been. It would have been better off. Look, it's never going to be completely fixed, whatever.
Yep.
But it goes back to the whole Andrew Johnson situation
Yep.
too. Instead of Hamlin, how that could have changed history
Yep.
too. And that's the real shame of it. And this country's still dealing with the effects of the assassination
Oh yeah.
and Reconstruction. So
Yep.
it's sad. Because I think he would have done. I think he was empowered. The war was over. He was very popular. He wasn't as popular then as he is now, admittedly,
No.
but he would have been someone who would have made a better effort. Freeman's Bureau wouldn't have fizzled.
No.
I think Howard and his gang would have been given more power.
Yeah.
But who knows? And that's the
Yeah.
shame. That's the real shame of it is the country still has the issue with all that, and they always will. And it's just
We got to do an issue or an episode on the Freedmen's Bureau sometime.
oh, you just want to talk about Howard? I know.
Hey, but that is something that people don't touch a lot. And what I don't see a lot of, and this is a really difficult part of history, and Howard does talk about it in his memoirs, is one of the reasons they struggled was because of the KKK.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean,
Right.
you've got a militant group
Yep.
who's trying to fight what you do. And Freeman's Bureau, for the most part, are volunteers.
Yep.
So if I'm a volunteer and I've got people threatening to burn my house down or string me up,
Yep.
I don't think I'm joining that group anymore. And so that's what fizzles out of it.
Well, and Howard talks about it in his memoirs. He talks about there was one instance where he had a family that had just moved. They were going to be there was a teacher in his family, and KKK show up one night at his house. They got their masks on, so they don't know who they are, and they threatened to kill him unless he left. Him and his family, and he had to leave. And Howard's like, "This is why I can't get stuff done."
Mm-hmm. And Johnson did everything possible to remove the funding, and they finally did, and that was the end of it. I mean, I imagine, if you sat down with Howard around 1900, somewhere like that, in his later years, he probably would have. I bet you his biggest regret was not Chancellorsville. I bet you it was a Freedmen's Bureau failing. I bet you it was. If you got an honest moment in him, I bet you so what is your greatest life regret? I bet you that's what it would be.
Oh, I agree with that.
Unlike a lot of these people who did things for political reasons and what was going to be taken correctly and popular, I think he really believed in that stuff. I think he
did.
I think he was a progressive, even by today's standards.
Yeah.
Now you could look at people like Lincoln, who by today's standards would not be progressive, right?
No.
And back then, Howard was.
Yeah, Howard was a very progressive.
And there were guys like John C. Fremont. There were people like that who were. And I'm not just talking about Garrison and talking about people like that, David Mariah Child. I'm not talking about those people. But I mean, people in the military. Because to be that type of person in the military, I mean, you look at how everything that McClellan did when Emancipation came out after Antietam was almost throwing cold water on it with his men, telling his men, if you don't agree with this, there's going to be an election.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the stink around McClellan,
yeah.
was he was not somebody who was on board with all that.
No.
And most people weren't. They
No,
were.
Howard, but that's why Gibbon didn't like Howard, was because of Howard was so, he was very progressive. He believed in equality. When Asians started being treated really badly in the late 1800s, Howard spoke out against that because he's like, they're no different than us. Like that was his thoughts. They're no different than us. And he was raised that way by his parents. And I think his
Mhm.
grandfather was that way too. So you have this long line of people that are influencing him. The other thing he wanted to see as well was women voting. He was
Yeah.
very much about women getting to vote. And that's very
And this
progressive.
wasn't just the blacks either. I mean, it was all. I mean,
Yeah.
going back to the episode, there's a reason why it says Noah changed his name from Luigi to Lewis
Yeah.
when he joined the military. Um, I mean, it says Noah is still kind of a giveaway,
Yeah.
but a lot of these people, I mean, one in every four Union soldiers was from somewhere else. There was a
Yeah.
lot of Germans, a lot of Irish, there was Italians, there was Canadians, um, and so the country was not very accommodating to foreigners then.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of it obviously hasn't changed, but I mean, then it was a real deal. Oh, you had to kind of hide this. And some of these guys, it was actually ironic though, as you mentioned Gibbon not getting along with Howard. Who did get along with Howard was Sherman,
Yeah.
and Sherman was no progressive by any
No.
stretch of the imagination. He was. I mean, he probably would be considered racist even in those times.
Oh, he was, yes.
You know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he and Howard were very good friends. It was almost like an older brother type of
Yeah.
thing. Um, but I just don't think they talked about it. Now one person that definitely did not like Howard and Howard did not like him was Jefferson C. Davis.
Well, no one liked Jefferson C. Davis. I mean, for the most part, no one liked him.
No.
He did his job, no question about that. But he was
Hmm.
somebody who obviously was not very
Yeah.
not very on board with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And I know the buck stops with Sherman with Ebenezer Creek, all the stuff he did. Because hey, Sherman did give orders. These
Hmm.
people following us, you got to ditch them. It's like
Yep.
the weird guy at the bar. You got to find a way to ditch the guy, right?
Yep.
Speaking of weird guys at the bar, we experienced what was the closest thing to a bar fight at the mine last night.
Between two women.
See two women cat fight,
Yep.
as Jerry Seinfeld would say. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. I saw you rolling up your sleeves like you were going to get into
Oh,
it for a second.
no.
You know?
Bryant says Reconstruction is an extremely shameful part of U.S. history. Yeah.
Oh, I think it's the most shameful part of U.S. history, to be honest. And this is saying something. I mean, when you're talking about the war ends, slavery is abolished, but if you're in the South and you're a black guy, you don't have a job,
Yeah.
you could be arrested, and they weren't hiring them for jobs. And if you were arrested, you were put basically in servitude to be a
Mhm.
slave. I mean, it's amazing that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the Booth thing. That's really where the Booth factor really affected American history.
Yeah.
I mean, Lincoln, great president, obviously did a ton. I think by most people's accounts, he's a top three president,
Yeah.
no matter who you ask. But the Washington people, there's the Teddy Roosevelt people. You can pick one. But his death denied the country a real reconstruction. And again,
Yeah.
we're assuming that's what was going to happen. Who the hell
Yeah.
knows? I mean, maybe he would have put his feet up and said, "Screw it, and knock
Yeah.
yourself." But I doubt he would have. I think he would have made sure that his legacy was going to be one that, because say what you will about Lincoln. I know that people don't like Lincoln, believe it or not. Everything he did, he went all in on.
Yeah.
When he made a decision, he went all in. His
Yeah.
decision to do the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation was so important in such a baller move, considering he didn't realize, well, maybe he did, how close Lord Palmerston was in England and
Yeah.
Napoleon III was in France for recognition of the South.
Yeah.
If they were just getting the stories of Second Manassas in London,
Yeah.
and they're reading this and like, oh, I think we need to go to Victoria. We need to get this thing done. And then the story of Antietam comes, and that's why look, I'm an Antietam guy. I am
Yeah.
okay, but I think this is why Antietam is the most important battle in the war because of the what if, like we talked about.
Yeah.
If the Union had lost Antietam, and I know it's a 51-49, it's basically a
Yeah.
hockey term. It's a shootout victory. I mean, it wasn't a slam dunk victory like Gettysburg was. But that allowed him to put the war about slavery
Yeah.
and keep the European powers out. And if they'd have come in, I mean, again, you're starting to see the cotton famine starting to kick in at the time.
Yeah.
You started to see the blockade really making an impact.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Antietam turns out like second Manassas. I think that's the ball game. I think it
Yeah.
is. And I think Lincoln have no choice.
Yeah.
You're coming off the Trent Affair, where they're
Yeah.
talking about sending troops to Canada now,
Hmm.
and everything. I mean, you got to be. You're sitting there. I think it's amazing Lincoln didn't drink. Amazing to me, because you're sitting there, you're seeing,
Maybe he was doing the edibles.
and you're like, seriously, Seward, you did what? You said
Yeah.
what about England? Are you out of your freaking mind? Um, and everything was coming up bad in '62 in the East.
Yeah.
In the West, it was great.
Yeah.
Donaldson, Henry, all that stuff is working well. But Antietam is the thing. And we were talking about somebody, we were talking to somebody about that in Cedar Creek about that, about how
Yeah.
important it was, more important than Gettysburg. And Gettysburg's great. I love Gettysburg. But at the end of the day, the Union can lose Gettysburg and still win the war. I don't think they do if they lose Antietam.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Something about okay, so regarding Reconstruction, I think had Lincoln not been assassinated, that um, and I don't know for sure, but he would have worked closely with Howard. The two of them probably would have worked closely together. Howard would have been able to advise him on because Howard paid attention to what was happening with the African Americans. The March to the Sea taught him a lot, and that's where he came up with a lot of his what was going to happen in Reconstruction, what was needed. So I think he would have been like an advisor. I don't think he ever would have been made a cabinet member, but I think he definitely would have been a close advisor to Lincoln.
Probably. I mean, who knows? But again, I get it. You can't talk about what is because it didn't happen.
No.
I get it. But that's what's great about the conversations you get with people. People have different opinions. Maybe there are people out there who say that, who say that it wouldn't have made a difference.
No.
Lincoln survived, wouldn't have made it, and you can make your case, and you're not wrong as long as you can make a case with it.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, people still think that Booth escaped. Okay,
Yeah.
do you believe that?
Yeah.
There's no, and history is great because there is no right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's all speculation. It is.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, the thing about the what if game is it like you're showcasing what you know about something and how it could apply to, well, what if this happened? Like the time we talked about, well, what if Carney had lived? What if he had not been killed at Chantilly? Where does that leave? Like, how does that affect the AOP in terms of leadership?
it, it's that exactly.
Because that's a big one. Or someone like Zollicoffer, what if he hadn't been killed?
The people who died early, Zollicoffer, Albert Sidney Johnson, people like that, they get kind of pushed aside because you don't
Mhm.
really know how it would have played itself out. But when you look, and I know there are people who like Braxton Bragg, and I get that. Okay,
Mhm.
Braxton Bragg was not as bad as people think he was. Nathaniel Banks was not as bad as people think he was. You can pick and
Yeah.
choose certain things. They never found anybody to deal with Sherman and Grant in the West. They never did. They never got around to it because they couldn't. They didn't have the people. But could Albert Sidney Johnson have been that guy? Could Zollicoffer have been his Sherman? We'll
Yeah.
never know. We'll never
Yeah.
know.
So Bryant said this brings up an interesting what if. What happens if the Brits come in during 1864 and face Sherman and Grant? I think the Brits get their asses kicked.
I don't think so. I don't think they would have fought. I think they would have basically said, we need to sit down and we need to solve this right now. I think the threat of the military would have been difficult because there's only so many front wars you can find. What's
Yeah.
going to happen? You're going to have England attack through Canada. You're going to have France attack through New Orleans. I mean, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
I think if they said, and don't forget the Russians were going to get involved too. People don't forget about the Russians.
Geez, when the Russians get involved, that's when things get bad.
Yeah, I think they would have sat there and said, you're going to make peace with these people. We're going to recognize them. We're going to open trade with them. And if you attack our boats, we're going to declare war on you. France will do the same thing. And then what are you going to do? I don't know. I think recognition of Europe would have been the end game. I think they would have had to.
Yeah.
Because you can't fight everybody. I mean, this isn't Rambo here, First Blood, which is a great movie, by the way.
Yeah. What if Virginia did not secede?
Well, there's always that. I mean, Virginia was, if they stay with Maryland and they were a border state, that would have been tough to say because they were a big slave state. There's no way in hell they would. It wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But obviously, if that did, I mean, if you really want to take it to a tangent, Lee stays with the Union.
Yeah.
Maybe there wouldn't be a fight. Who knows?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Maybe John Mosley would have been a Union guy. Imagine
Could
that.
you imagine?
Who knows?
Mosby. Every time I hear Mosby, I think of the cat.
Oh yeah,
Well, he's sleeping right now.
well, that's good. Um, but yeah, but then these are these great conversations you could have. You really, really could. I mean, the Confederates wanted to expand to the south and to Mexico and to Central America.
Yeah.
Maybe they make a determination where they say, well, you're gonna. Maybe England says we'll give you Canada.
Yeah.
Union, the Confederates can take Mexico, and we'll call it a day. And you can
Yeah.
maybe they, who knows? Maybe they do that.
Well, Seward was obsessed with making Canada the 51st state
And
to the point.
if they did, the Maple Leafs still don't want to come.
No,
Keep that. That's the fact we can all agree on.
the Maple Leaf. How are they doing this year anyway?
Oh, they're in last place in the division. It's beautiful. It's
Are they?
They got smoked by Buffalo. They got blown up. Buffalo's a good team this year, but they got their asses handed to them in Toronto the other night by Buffalo. It's very awesome.
So that's why I'm not seeing too many like Maple Leafs posts.
Well, the old saying is in Toronto, the Leafs fall in the spring.
Yeah.
But I think it might be the winner this time. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So they're not winning the cup this year.
No, I don't think that's going to happen this year for them, unfortunately.
Gentili said Garibaldi is a fun what if he offered to come over.
Well, Garibaldi guard, right? I mean, there was a lot. There was a lot of different people that would have come over, but it's fun to talk about this stuff too. It's the. I mean, the United States has been 4th and 10, to use a football metaphor, many times, and for the most part, they always seem to convert it. They usually do. And so that would have been interesting too, because if you really want to sit around and be like Johnny Gentili and twist your shoelaces behind the dumpster and then to have these conversations,
Jeez.
you know, how does that affect future wars like World War One?
Yeah,
right. Because I think if there was a peace war, because the Civil War was really about the future of the West.
Yeah,
you could have had a North, a South, and a West country.
Yeah.
Does the West sign up, join Japan in World War II? Potentially, the Northwest.
Yeah.
So that's why the Civil War is important, because it affected world history, and it also put the kibosh on all these revolutions who were trying to deny democracy in Europe because of the American Civil War. American democracy was the greatest fear in Europe. The monarchs. Every war of the 20th century was a war, for the most part, to determine what was going to replace monarchy. That's what they all were. And a lot of it goes back to the Civil War, because they didn't want democracy. And they would have loved to see the Americans fail, because it proves to them that democracy does not work.
Yeah.
That's why it's important. That's why the war's important. It's not just 4 years of a war fought mostly in Virginia between people who, Dusty Pickers and photography years ago. It has real world effects.
It is so important to study more than ever now, especially when you're seeing a resurgence of Lost Cause come out.
Well, I mean, that's always going to look. There's always going to be there. I mean, and that's people are entitled to their own beliefs.
Yeah.
I mean, if they think this, they think that. Who cares? It doesn't change anything.
No.
But I think it's important to study both sides for that reason. But you gotta understand the certain realities of certain.
You can't I'm almost done with the Gelso biography on Lee. Highly, highly recommend it. He tells it like it is, and I agree with everything he says about Robert E. Lee. Like, I agree with it.
I will never understand the hatred people have towards Gelso. My opinion, we've met him. He was on the podcast.
Such a nice guy.
Nice guy. He's got a big head. You know what? He's got like a 7 7/8 dome.
Yeah.
But he's the most intelligent Civil War person I've ever talked to. I mean, not even freaking close.
And he will sit and have a conversation with you and answer questions, and he
doesn't talk down to you.
No, when he found out that I really enjoy studying Howard, he was like, "Oh my gosh, he's not many people study him," and he was the one that said to me, the abolitionist general was what he called him.
I'm telling you, we've said this many times. Well, we did the episode with Gelso, and it was about Gettysburg. It's probably about a year or so ago now, 2 years ago, and we kept him to it. I think we said an hour. We went like an hour and a half. We finally let him off, but we spent about a half an hour after we cut off the podcast and talk with him. And it was like the best conversation I've ever had, and I regret to this day that we didn't record that.
Yeah,
and maybe that's why he talked so openly. But he talked a lot about stuff that he probably would not have put on a podcast. Maybe, who knows? But he was very genuine, and he kind of did his best to try to, because he gets hit on Meade a lot. People rip on him for.
He's got a picture of Meade in his office,
and he's like, and we were saying, he's like, I don't know why people would give me shit about Meade. I all I've ever done was quoted some letters of his and a couple of things, and people think I'm anti-media. Because I'm not, but people are going to think what they want to think. He's a very genuine. He's like
Yep.
talking to your grandfather.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, my grandfather would talk about World War II, but not about his experiences. You talk about
Yeah.
World War II, and he was there, and you're talking specifically about the Civil War. You're talking to a guy like Gelzo, and you have to catch yourself that he wasn't there
Yeah.
because he talks about like he was, and just because all the stories he has. Carmichael's like that too, but a little
Yeah.
bit different, you know.
Yeah. And so is Kent Masterson Brown.
Mm-hmm. And there are some legit cool people to talk to. Well, this one's awful.
3.6, not great, not terrible.
No, it's just very hoppy. But no, for the end, I never got the anti-Gelzo stuff, but I've
No.
not read the book, and I know MJ got you that book.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'll have to read that at some point.
The opening line is, how do you write a biography about a traitor?
Yeah.
It says it right off the bat. And that is the line that when I read reviews of his book, that was what people went at him for, was because he referred to Lee as a traitor.
Yeah.
Whether you think that or not, that is Gelzo's opinion.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
and that's, people are always entitled to their opinion, but he
yeah,
backs, and I've read a lot of Geldo's books, but I've not read that one.
it's really
And
good.
admittedly, I would read some of his stuff specifically on Gettysburg, and I'd be like, I'm like, I get his point. He knows way more than I do. God knows,
Yeah,
but I would disagree on certain things because it just felt like he was putting his opinion into certain aspects. But then when you kind of get to know him a little bit, we don't really know him. We just talked to him a few times, but you can see where it comes from, and it's an educated opinion.
yeah.
And so obviously, but there's a lot of cool people like that.
I highly recommend his book on Robert E. Lee, and also, read I've never read Freeman. I want to read Freeman because it's going to be another take on Lee. And, I probably won't agree with what he says about him, but, you still have to read it to understand who the person was.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what we always say. Read different sides and different stories to these
Yeah.
things because he's uh, I mean, you could read. I mean, I love reading Henry Kidd Douglas's bio, the one he wrote on Stonewall Jackson. I wrote Stonewall
Mhm.
because it's filled with all kinds of fun stories, about him, not just about Jackson, but about McClellan, about all these different things, um, and it's very very Southern slanted. Of course it is, but it's entertaining and it's
Yeah.
enlightening to certain things. Because like Mary Chestnut's Diary, we've mentioned a million
Yeah.
times. A lot of it's factually wrong, and people hit her on it because that didn't happen. That's what she thought happened.
Yeah.
So at the
Yeah,
time,
and the other thing too with studying this is, like, when you're studying a person or individual, you have to be very careful not to start hero worshiping them, because when that happens, and we've seen it happen, you know, you leave out certain parts of their history,
well, that's the problem. And
that the parts that make the person someone uncomfortable.
this is fun. What I think is kind of like, maybe it's not unique, but for me it is. Like, there are people in the Civil War field who look at these generals like they're sports teams,
Yeah.
right? And they defend them to the death, and they hate their rivals. And I'm sure they do it in the Rev War, World War II. Who the hell knows? Um, but it just seems like it's very unique Civil War where, like,
Yeah.
I don't have a favorite general because why the hell? Who cares? Why would I? I would never associate with an army general. I always like the lower guys,
Mhm.
but I realize people do. But at the same point, if you have a favorite general, or a favorite corps or whatever the hell it is, you have to be able to look at the foibles, and you
Yeah.
can't sit there and look at them like every time someone goes at whoever you like. You can't take it personally and get defensive and not look at the mistakes they made. I know I don't want to say you're a Howard person, but you study a lot of Howard, and I
Yep.
totally get that. And people talk about his issue with Chancellorsville, which is fair, but he screwed Antietam up pretty good. I
Yeah.
mean, he did, right? And you have to be able to realize all the stuff he did. There's a fly in the ointment with everything, with all these
Yep.
guys. You can't look. There's nobody who wedent through the war almost perfect. The
No.
closest person was John Brown Gordon.
Yeah.
He almost went undefeated, but he got beat at Stedman, and
Yeah.
that was his only loss.
Yeah.
For the most part, they all had bad moments. They did.
Yeah. Yeah. But when you're studying someone like John Brown Gordon, you have to acknowledge the fact that this is a guy who was post-war. He's a member of the KKK.
Yep.
Even though he says it was what did he say? It was a business of commerce meeting.
Well,
That's
I mean, it's in his. It was all the business leaders of Atlanta meeting at Stone Mountain, and it
with
so
pillowcases.
yeah, they bring your own pillowcase, which is kind of I'm sure, but it was what we say. But yeah, he it was so you can sit there and say, okay, um, Alfred Colquitt, Joseph Brown, all these Atlanta people, these politicians who are all part of all this stuff. You can sit there and get away with it by saying, hey, I was going to the chamber meeting, and
Yep.
yeah, I don't know who lit that cross on fire, but it wasn't me, you
Yeah,
know.
it was me.
But
Why
again,
do you wear pillowcases with the eyes cut out?
um, but again, that's that you're talking, and that's the other thing too. You can't do is you can't look at history in the 1860s and 70s and use today's litmus test to do it. And
Yep.
that's the problem people run into too, is when you look at some of these people like Dave Bedford Forrest, for example, yes, these
Yep.
people believe what they believed in,
Yep.
which is a complete different view of the mainstream of today. Okay. And I'm not going to defend any of these people, but they grew up in a system that this was normal for them.
Hmm.
Right. And they would look at things from the 1700s that would make no sense either.
Yep.
And every generation has their own mores and values.
Yep.
And that's why it's tough to look back at past ones and then judge them on today's standards. And people do it
Yep.
all the time,
Yep.
you know.
Glowjam asked, did Professor Gelzo ever reveal his thoughts about sickles?
Not that I know of. I mean, he talks about it for the most part. Most of Gelso's Gettysburg book is about Meade and how he managed the Union Army. He did. Um, if I remember
And when
correctly,
we had him on, I don't think we really talked about sickles too much.
no. And the thing about Sickles, and our friend Jim is the Sickles guy, and everybody knows Jim Hessler. Um, and again, the you're looking at the history where history
Yep.
tells you he violated orders, he moved his corps up against corps wrecked. And that's sort of true, but it's also not sort of true because there's so many details about the Gettysburg thing with him, and people think he was a dummy and he hated everybody, and that's not really true. He thought he could move his army up. He thought there was a chance the Fifth and Sixth
Yep.
Corps was going to go on his left because of a thing called the Charles Payne Map,
Yep.
and he was trying to get information from Henry Hunt about is this going to be an offensive or defensive battle. As much as early morning, or actually late morning, July 2nd, Meade wasn't sure if it was going to be they were
Yep.
going to attack or they were going to be attacked. And he's like, if we're going to be attacking, I need that peach orchard for artillery platform. I need
Yep.
it. He gets the ability to move his men up if he wants. He has the leeway to adjust his line, and everything turns out the way it turns out. But history says that he violated orders. He did not violate orders. He
No.
didn't. Um, and if you read Hessler's book on Sickles, and I think that's probably the top shelf book on Sickles,
Yep.
it tells that story. And I get people don't like him. His personal life was a train wreck. He was.
Yep.
But you can't deny he did what he thought was best at the time,
Yep.
and he thought he had the ability to do so.
Yep.
So who knows?
No, and I mean, I enjoy studying Sickles. There's a time when I didn't like him too much, and I've really come around on him. Yeah, his personal life is mess, but you know, he's still one of these individuals you got to study.
Well, you talk about Sickles, you talk about you know Martin Key, you talk about him in
Yep.
Congress, him getting part of the the Excelsior, the Tammany Hall, getting his position,
Yep.
how he ran it. But I'll tell you, when you're sitting over in Little Round Top looking at that vista over Devil's Den, you're looking at that because of Dan Sickles, and it
Yep.
has nothing to do with the war because he did everything he could to deny the railroad from going through there, from
Yep.
development from going in there, and preserving the battlefield. Now, did he steal the $20,000 that people say he did? Who knows?
Yep.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Um, but when you pick and choose, there are certain things about that, and I think that's the problem. Um, he gets wounded, he loses his leg, he goes back to Washington. If you know if you know Shelley's Backyard Bar, which is near the Willard, that was a location where he convalesced. That's where
Yep.
but he made sure he got back to get to Lincoln to make sure he told his story.
Yep. Yeah, he
The
said that
kind of
Kevin brought that
right
up.
because he knew Meade was gonna do the whole CIA thing and say
Yep.
it wasn't like the Shaggy thing. It wasn't me,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um, and he did. He got a Medal of Honor. He did not get arrested. He got a Medal of Honor for it.
Yep.
But maybe he deserved the Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Maybe he did.
Yeah.
You know, who got a
Was
Medal of Honor was Cesnola.
Yep.
You know who didn't get one was Tilden.
No. Tilden needs one.
I know. I know.
Howard got one.
Howard going, yeah.
Yep.
But
Remember
again,
someone came at us for that, saying he shouldn't have got it?
I mean, I always get a kick out of the people who say this guy 160 years ago should not have got. I mean, look, you got medals of honor for picking up flags back then,
Yeah.
right? Buffalo Bill Cody, you know who he is?
Yep.
The last Bill from Buffalo who won something.
Yep.
He 1872. He's fighting in the Indian Wars. He's a
Mhm.
civilian. He gets a Medal of Honor as a civilian. They take it away from him because he was a civilian. He gets it back 100 years later, and they give it to him. So people back then were debating whether or not people deserve these things.
Yep.
And a lot of people in the Civil War probably by today's standards would not have earned it, but that's what they gave him. I mean,
Yeah.
they determined at that point his action, whatever he did, was worthy of this medal.
Yep.
So who are we to sit there and question it? It's my opinion anyway.
That's I agree with that.
You know,
I should probably jump off here soon too.
that's for a few minutes.
Okay.
We'll get a few minutes. So we started a little bit late. We're a quarter of. Nothing to do today. What do you got? A busy day for you today?
No.
Falling asleep on the couch?
Watching Terminator?
Yeah, 100% that's going to happen. But you could look at studying these people and you can get an idea. But it is dangerous to put today's standards on. But you know something? Again, and the biggest one, the biggest lightning rod is McClellan.
Yeah.
And he is, right? And you can read McClellan stuff. You can read Sears. You can read all these things. And yes, he, going back specifically to Maryland campaign, specifically about Antietam, right? And he's made to have the slows and cautious, and that's all true. But we know now what he was going against.
Yeah.
We know now that on September 16th, that Stonewall was still at Harper's Ferry.
Yeah.
That McLaws was still in Pleasant Valley. But when you get Allan Pinkerton, okay, and you have your cavalry Pleasanton, and you have Andrew Curtin in Maryland, I mean, in Pennsylvania, all telling you these large numbers.
Yeah.
And you've got Halleck and Stanton and Lincoln saying you got to protect Baltimore and Washington at the same time. You're serving a lot of masters. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
He knew that Harper's Ferry had fallen, but he didn't know they were going to rush back to Sharpsburg. And I'm not trying to defend specifically McClellan, but it's easy to look back on what we know now and say what he could have done. I'll tell you right now, okay, Seattle should have ran the ball in 2015 in the Super Bowl, right? They should have run the ball, but they didn't because they thought that was the best play, and it blew up in their face. Thank God. Hopefully it happens against a Sunday. But there's so much Monday morning quarterbacking with him. And and we said a million times, he did himself no favors politically. He didn't. But when you look at his plan, specifically of Antietam, he did the right plan.
Yep.
Lee's got 40 brigades. He doesn't know there's only 33 on the 60. He doesn't know. Yep. He attacks, but his biggest problem was he kept his cavalry in the middle.
Yep.
He wanted this grand Napoleonic attack where the cavalry is going to burst in the middle and save the day. He doesn't use them to scout. He doesn't reconnoiter Snavely's Ford. He doesn't reconnoiter Nicodemus Heights. Mm-hmm. He does everything he can to try to keep everything in the middle. You attack on the left, you attract troops on the right, then you attack the right, and then you break through the middle. He had it, but he pissed on his leg at the last second.
Yeah.
Because he was getting reports that there were more Confederates behind them.
Yeah.
So again, history proved him wrong, but at the end of the day, in real time, what are you going to do?
Those are the episodes we've been criticized the most because we have been accused of being McClellan fanboys and fangirls or whatever, which I don't think we are. I think we're just telling his story.
I don't care about McClellan one way or the other. I could care less about it. I don't care about McClellan versus McDonald's. I don't care. Yep. But I mean, if you're going to tell the story and study, you got to study both sides. Try to put yourself in the shoes of these people, try to understand. Yep. Stephen Sears takes a steaming beer piss all over him.
Yeah.
In his book, Landscape Turned Red. And okay, fine. But he forgets he conveniently forgets. He throws him from time to time. Oh, and by the way, this is what he was told. He kept Fitzgerald Porter in the Fifth Corps in the back. But he did a lot of stuff against his own will too. He fought his Army of Potomac guys first. He left the Army of Virginia guys under John Pope and kind of kept them in the back. So he didn't trust them. And then he split the Ninth Corps with Um, Burnside has that whole thing on that one side. Jacob Cox is going to
Hmm.
take over a portion. There's a lot of mistakes he made, but it's in real time. For God's sakes, like we said before, go down to Mr. G's, get yourself an ice cream sundae,
Yeah.
go find a bee's nest, hit it with the baseball bat, sit under the bees, and eat the sundae,
Yeah.
and then try to think logic. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. Things happen in real time, and there's explosions all around you.
Yeah.
And that's what these guys all had to deal with on the Union and the Confederate side.
Yep.
But speaking of Antietam, people talk a lot about Lee, about Chancellorsville. I think Antietam was one of Lee's best moments.
Yeah.
By the way. But it's my opinion.
No,
Opinion,
I
not
agree
facts.
too. Yep. Frank's on here. He said, let us remember General Krzyzewski, who died 139 years ago yesterday.
Shizanovsky.
Shizanovsky?
Like the basketball coach a little bit.
But everyone called him Kriz.
Yeah, why do you think? you know, and he doesn't get a lot of credit. It's funny when speaking of Gettysburg, you look at East Cemetery Hill and everyone gives Samuel Carroll from the Second Corps all the credit. Yeah. He came and saved the day with his big mutton chops and whole deal. But Shiz was a big guy as far as stabilizing that Union line from the 11th Corps, and he doesn't get talked about as much.
No,
that's kind of a bummer, but it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. Like, admittedly, yeah, I don't know as much about him as I do say about Schurz or von Gilsa.
They're all fascinating guys. They all come from different histories. I mean, they certainly do. And a lot of these guys came over from Germany to learn how to fight for their future revolution. And there's all kinds of cool stuff about that. It really is.
Yep. Bill mentions he's reading Schernau's Mark Twain. Interesting factoid that Twain was in the Missouri Confederate militia for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mark Twain. Isn't he buried over in Elmira? Is that the grave? Did we see his grave? We went to go visit Doug over at Elmira, the prison. I think he's buried there. I think he actually is. I mean, admittedly, it's a few brain cells that go up in the mind last night, but I think that's where he was.
Mark Twain grave. Yep, Elmira, New York.
Yeah, I thought we saw his grave. It's interesting when you run into these random. We went to go see some of the Civil War graves because we visited the cemetery because that's where a lot of the Elmira prisoners went to go see their graves in the Shohola train wreck, right?
Yeah.
There's Sam Clemens' grave right there.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I think Doug told us to go see it.
No, I think he did too. Speaking of that, they're still working on that prison, right?
Yeah.
If you ever find yourself in Elmira, New York, okay, go see him and go see his wife. Elmira prison is a fantastic visit.
Yep.
I mean, it's not Andersonville as far as this vast area, but there's quite a bit of ground you can go visit. And they're building replica barracks of where the Confederates were held.
Yeah.
And they had barracks. They had those big heaters. They those fire things they had, and he does a great job interpreting. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a friend of Hessler too.
He's fun.
It's fine. I don't know. Did we FaceTime him with Jim that day? I forget.
No. Jim popped on to the live.
That's what it was. I don't know if we talked to him or he popped on the live when we did that thing from our round. That was fun. That was a good time. I love travel and seeing this stuff. It's Same. one thing to read and to do these things, but but the greatest stuff is visiting these places.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. So Glowjam said, my determining factor about Sickles was that functionally the Third Corps essentially ceased to exist after Gettysburg. Remnants mostly absorbed by other units by most accounts.
They fell down to a division level, and they ended up fighting at Spotsylvania as a division.
Yeah,
and they were the ones who came out of the Muleshoe originally, and they got slaughtered there too.
Yeah,
so they lost a lot of because the whole thing got spread out. Obviously, Sickles was done. A lot of his division commanders remained division commanders in different corps.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Third Corps literally turned into a division, and they didn't disappear, but they got smoked at Spotsylvania. If you've been to Spotsylvania, the same path we walked, right? Up that path, they come out of those woods and they got smoked. So they had a tough situation.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, say what you will about the Third Corps, but they were some of the hardest fighting guys in the Army of Potomac. They really were. They really were.
Yeah, they were.
They definitely did.
Spotsylvania is awesome.
I love that whole area though. Spotsylvania is great. Fredericksburg is great. Salem Church is great. Obviously, Chancellorsville is great, all that area. We hit that yawn very well, by the way,
Yeah.
considering you woke up an hour and a half
Oh
ago.
God.
That's why we were late. It'd be nice to sleep at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Jeez, just stop.
Gee, I wonder why.
Ugh, whatever.
I was in Arsenio Hall. Things make me go, hmm. Old school stuff. All right, I guess we could jump off. I guess you're ready. You want
No,
to
no, I was just gonna say too, so we will be we will be meant doing a post what our upcoming episodes are going to be once we get those sorted out. Hopefully we'll do a roundtable again soon. Um, what else was I gonna say? We're gonna be in late March or early April. We will be revisiting the Battle of Shiloh again as well.
yeah, that's gonna be a good one too. We've there's a lot of stuff that we did back in the day, back in the Jurassic era of this podcast that we got to redo again.
Yeah.
You know, uh, but Shiloh's a fantastic thing, and it's there's so much to talk about with this stuff, and just kind of how. And it's if you can do one that relates to people and your
Yeah.
own self, it just resonates more. That's why I like the Cisnola one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an Italian archaeologist coming
Yeah.
from all this stuff, but everybody can associate with the guy looking to fight his way to what he's entitled to, or what
Yeah.
he feels he deserves. He just went over the top with it, and
Yeah.
then once he got a little bit of fame, it went to his head, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool though.
Hmm. But yeah,
What's Bjorn today, by the way?
I don't know. I was just wondering that.
I was going to get Bjorn's opinion on the Super Bowl, but he isn't on. I'll have to message him.
You should.
Yeah.
Next weekend. So we will probably be back next weekend.
We'll probably do it Sunday because
Yeah.
what are we doing Saturday?
You're in Antietam on
Oh,
Saturday.
I gotta go to Antietam on Saturday. I knew I had something to do on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we'll do this Sunday again. We'll put this out there again. It'll be a Super Bowl edition of
Yeah.
the the podcast on live. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. So we guess we'll announce the next couple episodes. We're gonna
Yeah.
sit back. We have to go back into a Civil War Breakfast Club World headquarters and come up with some ideas. But we know we're
Yeah.
doing one late in February with Dave Taylor, and we're going to be talking about the Lincoln,
Yeah.
the Booth assassination tour that he's going to be doing on. But it's going to be about the tour. It's going to be about the escape. It's going to talk about all the places that they go
Yeah.
and about the actual history. And hopefully it'll be a good time. We'll do another one as well. There's a lot of fun stuff coming, and then
Yeah.
we're going to be this. I know this is a couple months away, but we're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing an episode live again over at Getty's Gear.
No, we're not doing the live episode.
We're not.
I don't think we are.
That's what he thinks we're doing.
Oh,
All right.
okay. All
I
right.
thought we were. We'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Yeah.
But well, who knows? We're going to do something. We'll be
Yeah.
doing something. I mean, we're probably going to record it, but we'll figure it out. I think that's what we've been talking about. But
Yeah.
I don't know. What do I know? Whatever. You just tell me what we're doing.
I don't know.
All right, off we go. All right, so enjoy your week. Hopefully, it warms up. I think it's going to, but this is ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
expect to see tauntauns and freaking AT-AT attacking warriors
Yep.
to the Empire here
Yep.
pretty soon. But it's pretty good. So thanks for jumping on. We appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thanks everybody for jumping on and for your comments and your questions. It's awesome. People really liked your beehive analogy too.
Oh, okay. But listen, don't forget. I know everyone's talking Super Bowl, but bean pots this week too.
Yeah.
That's the
BC.
next thing. That's the next thing in my world is the bean pot. We'll deal with
Yeah.
the Patriots next week. We got the bean pot
Yeah.
this week. So go
Yeah.
BC. All right, guys. Enjoy everybody. We'll talk soon.